Today, we're talking about a conqueror who turned into a pacifist, an emperor whose symbols literally define a modern nation, but whose name was completely lost to history for almost 2,000 years. This is the incredible story of Ashoka the Great.
I mean, think about it. For all his power, all his influence, Ashoka was pretty much erased. His name, his massive empire, his unbelievable transformation, it all just vanished. It was only rediscovered because of a linguistic puzzle in the 19th century. So the big question is, how on earth does an empire that powerful just disappear?
And what's so wild is that his legacy was hiding in plain sight the whole time. You see that wheel right in the center of India's flag? That's the Ashoka chakra. And the country's official emblem, you know, the 4 lions standing back to back? That's the lion capital of Ashoka. These powerful symbols of a modern nation belong to a king who, for centuries, was a total mystery.
All right, so to really understand Ashoka, we've got to go back to the beginning. And we're going to meet a very different version of the emperor, a far cry from the peaceful guy he'd become. This is the story of Ashoka, or Ashoka the Fierce.
So what we have here is a huge split between historical fact and, well, some pretty dramatic legends. On the one hand, history tells us he was the son of Emperor Bindusara and a pretty capable viceroy. But on the other hand, you've got these later Buddhist legends that paint this incredibly brutal picture. They tell stories of a guy so ruthless he supposedly killed 99 of his own brothers just to grab the throne. They even claim he built this elaborate torture chamber, which got the charming nickname Ashoka's Hell. Now, these stories were probably exaggerated, right? They were told to make the change that was about to happen seem even more powerful, even more miraculous.
And that change, it was triggered by one single devastating event. A conflict so bloody, it would completely reshape the emperor's mind and the entire future of his empire. We're talking about the Kalinga War.
So, in his 8th year as emperor, Ashoka attacks the kingdom of Kalinga. And the war was just brutal. According to his own inscriptions, 100,000 people were killed in the fighting. Just let that number sink in for a second.
And the tragedy didn't even end there. Another 150,000 people were taken captive, their homes and their lives just destroyed. The scale of the suffering was absolutely immense, and for the first time, this victorious emperor was forced to look at the real cost of his own ambition.
And those are Ashoka's own words, carved into rock for everyone to read, forever. Faced with all that devastation, he publicly declared his profound sorrow and regret. This is huge. The conqueror was gone, and in his place was a man filled with remorse, a ruler who saw the horror of war and decided, okay, there has to be a better way.
So what does an emperor do with all that guilt? Well, this remorse led to one of the most remarkable transformations in political history. Ashoka completely abandoned military conquest. Instead, he embraced a brand new policy, something he called conquest by dharma.
Now, his idea of dharma wasn't just about religion. It was way bigger than that. It was a whole philosophy for how to rule. It was about caring for your people, promoting tolerance for all religions, protecting the environment, and, of course, giving up war. I mean, this was a totally radical idea for the ancient world, to govern not by the sword, but by a moral code. It was a revolutionary new model for leadership.
And this wasn't just talk. He really put these ideas into action. He set up hospitals for both people and animals. He had wells dug and shade trees planted along roads for travelers. He even created a whole new class of officials, the Dhamma Mahamatas, whose only job was to work for the welfare of the people. And, this is so important, while he himself was Buddhist, his laws commanded respect for all faiths. The man was basically building a welfare state 2,000 years before anyone else even thought of it.
So Ashoka had these principles carved on pillars and rocks all across his empire, creating this incredible ethical framework for his subjects to live by. And yet, after he died, this incredible legacy and the emperor himself just faded away.
So how? How does that happen? Well, the answer is all about language. Over hundreds of years, the Brahmi script he used in his edicts just fell out of use. It became unreadable. His famous pillars were just these mysterious monuments with strange markings nobody understood. It wasn't until 1837 that a British scholar named James Prinsep finally cracked the code. He figured out how to read the edicts, which were signed by a king called Piyadasi, meaning beloved of the gods.
The last piece of the puzzle came from another scholar, George Turner, who used Sri Lankan chronicles to connect the name Piyadasi to the legendary emperor Ashoka. And just like that, after almost 2,000 years of silence, the emperor could speak again. And once all these pieces clicked into place, the world rediscovered this extraordinary story. They hadn't just found a lost king, they had uncovered the personal account of a brutal conqueror who, consumed by regret, became one of history's greatest champions for peace and compassion.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Ashoka's story is this incredible tale of transformation, but it starts with so much violence. And it forces us to ask a really tough question. Can a lifetime of promoting peace and tolerance and welfare ever truly erase a past that was built on conquest and bloodshed? That is the complex and enduring legacy of Ashoka the Great.